On today's episode of Undecided, we welcomed on Billy Bonebrake. He's a criminal justice major from Chicago, Illinois. Brought up some really good tips for future servicemen or servicewomen that may be interested in criminal justice. Brody, what did you think of the interview?
I think he offered good insight on why, people should go to college instead of just going right out of high school to the academies, and why a 4-year degree is beneficial.
Yeah, so we're going to swing it right over to the interview. Here's Billy Bonebrake. All right, for our next guest on the Undecided podcast, we're welcoming on Billy Bonebrake. He's a senior criminal justice major from Chicago, Illinois. Billy, thanks for taking the time to come on our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so my first question for you is, why did you choose criminal justice as your major?
Well, growing up, I was really involved with the Boy Scouts. Became an Eagle Scout, so I was really involved with helping people at the food pantry or, basically anything of that sort. So that was one of my main pursuits of criminal justice. And also, in this day and age, crime is occurring at a crazy rate, so I just want to do what I can to stop it. I'm a future law enforcement officer, so that's my main goal. But yeah, just end crime in general as the best of my ability.
So why did you choose Nebraska's criminal justice program in general? Like, why did they stand out from the crowd?
I was looking at numerous schools from back home, and then Nebraska came on my radar, and I started looking at the different courses that we offered, and we offered courses from, if you want to be a lawyer, you can go that route. If you want to be a police officer, you can go that route. So there are plenty of different options that you could take if you wanted to pursue criminal justice. So UNL just stood out so much to me, so I chose it.
Kind of going off of that answer that you had there about the different options. I know a lot of people can have, outside of high school, they can either have like a GED or a high school diploma and then go straight into becoming like a law enforcement officer. So talk a little bit about the advantages of having a criminal justice diploma and then going on past that into your future career.
Yeah, like Ryan was saying, if you want, you can skip college and go straight to work in a law enforcement profession. However, most agencies now strongly recommend a college degree. That will help you with benefits and salary increases when you first start. Also, if you want to be promoted to the rank of sergeant, lieutenant, all the way up the ladder, they usually prefer or require you to have a college education. So if you go in without anything and you want to go higher up, they're going to want you to go ahead and get your college degree.
Talk a little bit about some of the classes that maybe some incoming freshmen that want to pursue criminal justice. Talk a little about some of the classes that you've been taking throughout your 4 years here at UNL.
Yeah, so the classes that we've been taking, obviously when you start as a freshman, they're not as in-depth. They're more of a very broad topic. But one of the things I really like about the classes are that a lot of the teachers are former law enforcement officers or lawyers or anything, so they actually have like real experience in the field. It's not just a teacher that's went to college and then now they're teaching. So that they actually have like real experience.
Do you think that kind of connection, since they were real officers and in the field, do you think that's good networking for you when you go out to look for a job? Can you maybe reference those people? Have they talked about that at all? Or
Yeah. I've had some teachers who have recommended jobs to me, and they always say, I'm definitely a good source. So it's super important to get to know them. That way, they're a great, reference for whatever job you pursue.
Yeah, that might be another benefit. I'm sure not just Nebraska offers that, but just going to college for the criminal justice major, even if you just want to be like a local cop or something, then I feel like networking is going to be huge for that. So you can go out and you can have those, references that get you those good jobs. And one question I had that I wasn't very clear on was, when you have that major, if you decide to go into the military of some sort, aren't you automatically like officer level? Is that true? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what your degree is if you want to go into the military. The thing is that I only know a little bit about it, but if you want to go in the military, you still have to go through a officer school. But to become an officer in the military, you have to have a 4-year degree at the minimum.
I know we were talking before we were recording, but I want you to kind of talk about your internship that you've been doing this fall. I know you were talking about it before, but you want to just kind of talk a little bit about what that's done for you and how your 4 years at UNL have kind of set you up to be in that position and what you do during your internship.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been interning with the local sheriff's office. And basically all we do is, we do a fair amount, but it's a lot of road patrols. We respond to calls, basically non-emergency calls and emergency calls. Just do everything that law enforcement does. And then I've also spent time in the county jail, which they operate. So I've seen, how they move prisoners between cells and all stuff like that. And then I've seen the court process too. So once someone's arrested, how they go through court and the process of that.
I want you to touch a little bit because I know Brody kind of mentioned it a little bit before, but what kind of advantages that you see at UNL that maybe you wouldn't see at other programs for a criminal justice major?
Well, UNL does a great job with, just guiding the students along. They're like my advisor is always there. She's always, checking up on me, making sure that, I got the classes I need. And so a lot of students really enjoy that because some of the bigger schools or sometimes even the smaller schools, they won't check up on you as much. So UNL does a great job making sure you're on track to graduate in the 4 years or 5 years or how many you want it to stay here until to make sure you graduate.
So with a 4-year criminal justice degree, can you go straight into agencies like the FBI and things like that, or is there other school you have to do after that?
For some of the bigger federal agencies like the FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, you can get in with just your 4-year degree. They usually strongly recommend either military service or prior law enforcement experience. And I think if you get your master's degree or your PhD or your law degree, they'll accept you off the bat there. But, yeah, you need at minimum a 4-year degree for those.
And I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but what were some of the things that kind of drew you into criminal justice other than, just Eagle Scouts and Boy Scouts and such? What other factors, maybe lifestyle of a police officer or serviceman of any kind, like what about that lifestyle really, really appealed to you?
Yeah, law enforcement is just one of those jobs where it's almost like a calling. A lot of people don't want to do it. You're out there risking your life every day, and a lot of people just don't care about you at all. They just cuss you out and everything, but it is a calling. I feel like I have that calling, so it's just something I feel like I have to do. But there's something called the thin blue line, which is basically every cop is a brother or sister of every other cop out there. So regardless of what society thinks of you, you guys, they're your brothers and sisters. It's like one big family. So it's just you got your family either way.
Right. Yeah. I think that's like really important, and I really like how you kind of touched on that, just because it's super important for people who are laying their lives on the line for. Got 2 more questions for you. One, we've talked a lot about the criminal justice major, but I want to talk a little bit more about what you kind of personally want to do after you get your degree here at UNL. What's kind of your path after college?
So when I graduate this upcoming May, I'm planning on applying. Well, throughout the year up until May, I'll be applying to a bunch of police academies, departments, just in general. As I said before, I want to do something in law enforcement. But until graduation, I'm just going to be constantly applying and going do the written tests, the physical tests, everything that they require for those departments, and then choose which one I want from there.
Right. All right, last question I've been asking all our guests that come onto our podcast, both faculty and students, but why Nebraska?
Nebraska is, like I said, great criminal justice program, but they're also recently in the Big Ten as of a couple of years ago. So I really wanted the Big Ten football program. And then there, we have other sports that are Big Ten, but I really wanted to be go to all the big football games that Nebraska has to offer.
Right. Well, Billy, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on our podcast, and good luck to you in the future.
Thank you.
All right, that was a great interview from Billy Bonebrake. We really appreciate him coming on to our podcast. He offered some great insight for future criminal justice majors or anyone that may be interested in furthering their education and going into the academy instead of going right out of high school. So, again, we thank Billy for coming on, and until next time, thanks for listening to Undecided.